That Christmas tree in your living room? It's a pagan ritual. Gift giving on December 25th? Stolen from a Roman festival where slaves became masters for a day. Santa Claus? He's actually a one-eyed Norse god riding through winter storms on an eight-legged horse. Every December, you're practicing ancient solstice rituals, and you don't even know it. Here's the truth. Christianity didn't invent Christmas. It absorbed it. The church took the wildest pagan winter festivals from across Europe and transformed them into the holiday you celebrate today. This is how your ancestors' desperate fight against winter darkness became Christmas. When Christianity spread across Europe, church leaders faced a problem. People refused to abandon their winter solstice celebrations. These weren't just parties, they were survival rituals. As daylight dwindled to its shortest point, ancient civilizations across Europe asked a terrifying question: would the sun return? They feasted when food was scarce, lit fires in the darkest nights, brought evergreens indoors as symbols of eternal life. From Stonehenge to the frozen forests of Scandinavia, every culture had their own way of fighting winter's darkness. So the church made a strategic decision: don't fight them, absorb them. The birth of Christ became intertwined with the rebirth of the sun. Roman Saturnalia's gift-giving? Now Christmas presents, Norse YULE logs. Your fireplace tradition, Celtic evergreen worship, your Christmas tree. Today we're journeying through four ancient civilizations: the megalithic builders of Stonehenge and Newgrange, the Romans with their week-long Saturnalia chaos, the Celts with their sacred evergreens, and the Norse with their 12 days of Yule. You'll discover exactly how their desperate winter rituals transformed into your family's Christmas traditions. This isn't about undermining Christmas, it's about understanding the incredible 5,000-year story that connects you to your ancestors every December. A story of survival, adaptation, and cultural continuity that most people celebrate without ever knowing. Your Christmas dinner, the one where your entire family travels hours to gather around a table with a massive roast, is 5,000 years old, and I can prove it with pig teeth. Our story begins around 3000 BC on the Salisbury Plain in southern England, where Neolithic people constructed one of history's most enigmatic monuments, Stonehenge. But what they built it for will completely change how you see your holiday traditions. While most people associate Stonehenge with the summer solstice, the monument's true astronomical genius reveals itself in winter. The massive sarsen stones align perfectly with the winter solstice sunset. On December 21st, the sun sets directly through the central trilithon, creating a dramatic corridor of light that transforms the entire monument. Archaeological evidence suggests this was actually the more important celebration for the builders. Why winter over summer? Because winter solstice marked the turning point, the moment when darkness stopped advancing and light began its return. For agricultural societies living on the edge of survival, this astronomical certainty provided hope during the harshest season. The sun would come back, crops would grow again, they would live. Recent excavations at nearby Durrington Walls, a massive settlement just 2 miles from Stonehenge, revealed something extraordinary, evidence of enormous winter feasts that dwarf anything we do today. Archaeologists discovered remains of thousands of pigs slaughtered in midwinter, along with cattle bones showing similar timing. We're talking about 38,000 animal bones, over 900 pigs. This was feasting on an unimaginable scale. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Isotope analysis of pig teeth proved these animals weren't local. They were raised hundreds of miles away, in Wales, Scotland, northern England, and driven to Stonehenge specifically for this celebration. This wasn't a village party. This was a national pilgrimage. Thousands traveled from across the island to feast, celebrate, and witness the solstice together. The houses at Durrington Walls align with Stonehenge's solstice axis, suggesting the entire settlement was built specifically for these winter gatherings. People would arrive weeks before the solstice, prepare the feast together, and celebrate the sun's return as a unified community. Sound familiar? The tradition of traveling long distances to gather with family for a massive winter feast, complete with specially prepared meats as the centerpiece, directly echoes these Neolithic celebrations. Your Christmas dinner, with its roast and family gathered around the table, continues a tradition that's at least 5,000 years old. The communal aspect is crucial. Just as Neolithic Britons gathered from across the island to celebrate collectively, modern Christmas remains one of the few times when extended families make pilgrimages to reunite. The astronomical event has been replaced by a religious one, but the social function remains identical, bringing communities together during the darkest time of year to celebrate, feast, and reinforce social bonds. You're not just having dinner, you're continuing an unbroken chain of winter survival rituals stretching back 5,000 years. Your Christmas lights, the ones you string across your house every December, are performing a 5,000-year-old death ritual, and the proof is buried 60 miles north of Dublin, Newgrange, built around 3200 BC. This passage tomb is older than Stonehenge, older than the Egyptian pyramids. But calling it merely a tomb undersells what its builders actually created, an architectural miracle that transforms death into rebirth every single year. Newgrange's builders engineered something that still seems impossible today, a 19-meter passage leading to a central chamber, aligned with surgical precision to the winter solstice sunrise. Above the entrance, they constructed a unique roof box, a specially designed opening that remains the monument's most ingenious feature. For 361 days of the year, Newgrange's inner chamber sits in complete darkness. The dead rest in absolute blackness, but for approximately 17 minutes around dawn on December 21st, the winter solstice, the year's darkest day, something miraculous happens. A shaft of sunlight penetrates through the roof box, travels down the narrow passage, and illuminates the chamber's back wall where the dead are buried. The sun enters the earth itself, light penetrates death. The tomb becomes a womb. Modern visitors who win the lottery to witness this event describe it as profoundly moving, even life-changing. The beam of light gradually strengthens, filling the chamber with golden illumination, then slowly fades back to darkness. For Neolithic people, this wasn't just beautiful. It was proof that death wasn't the end. The spiral carvings throughout Newgrange aren't mere decoration. They're symbolic representations of life, death, and rebirth. The triple spiral at the entrance is particularly significant, possibly representing the three stages of existence: life, death, and rebirth in an endless cycle. By placing their dead in this chamber and having sunlight penetrate it at the year's darkest moment, Newgrange's builders created a powerful statement about existence itself. Death is not the end. Just as the sun dies each night and is reborn each morning, just as winter gives way to spring, human souls were believed to undergo the same transformation. The parallel to Christmas is impossible to ignore. Christianity celebrates December 25th as the birth of Christ, the light of the world, emerging into darkness to bring salvation. The symbolism of light penetrating darkness, of divine birth during the darkest season, of hope and renewal, all of this directly echoes Newgrange's winter solstice symbolism. The nativity story itself carries these exact themes: a sacred birth in a humble chamber, stable or cave, divine light, the Star of Bethlehem, and the promise of renewal and salvation. While the religious context differs, the underlying symbolic framework, light conquering darkness, birth during winter's death, hope emerging from despair, remains identical across 5,000 years. Even your modern tradition of Christmas lights connects directly to this ancient symbolism. Every December, you string lights on your homes during the darkest time of year, creating artificial illumination to push back the darkness. Exactly what your ancestors did with their solstice fires, and exactly what Newgrange's builders achieved with their architectural marvel. You're not decorating. You're declaring that light always returns. That gift you're wrapping right now. It started as a joke present exchanged during a festival where slaves could legally mock their masters. Welcome to Saturnalia, the Roman celebration that would make your wildest office party look like a church service. Ancient Rome's most beloved festival began every December 17th, honoring Saturn, the god of agriculture and time. Originally 3 days, by the late Republic it had exploded into a full week ending December 23rd. But what happened during those 7 days would fundamentally reshape how humanity celebrates winter forever. Here's what made Saturnalia absolutely revolutionary. Normal social rules were completely suspended. Slaves dined with their masters, or even had their masters serve them. The Senate closed. Law courts shut down. Everyone wore the pileus, a felt cap normally worn only by freed slaves, symbolizing temporary liberty for all. Gambling, normally illegal across the empire, was suddenly permitted everywhere. Romans gambled in the streets, in temples, in their homes. The entire social order flipped upside down for one glorious week, and the authorities couldn't do anything about it. And yes, they decorated their homes with evergreen boughs and wreaths. Sound familiar? Romans believed evergreens held special power because they remained green when other plants died, symbolizing eternal life and the promise that spring would return. That wreath on your door? 2,000 years old. But Saturnalia's most enduring legacy is the tradition that now drives entire economies: gift-giving. On the festival's final day, Romans exchanged presents called sigillaria, small figurines, candles, and deliberately ridiculous gag gifts designed to make recipients laugh. Wealthier Romans gave more substantial presents to clients and friends, creating social obligations that would last the entire year. The gift economy of Saturnalia wasn't just about generosity, it was about reinforcing social bonds and building networks of reciprocal obligation. The poet Catullus described Saturnalia as the best of days. But even then, not everyone approved. The philosopher Seneca complained bitterly about the commercial excess, writing, "The whole mob has let itself go in pleasures." Yes, 2,000 years ago, Romans were already complaining that Saturnalia had become too commercialized. Your grandmother's complaints about Christmas losing its meaning? Ancient Roman tradition. Candles were particularly popular Saturnalia gifts, symbolizing the returning light after the solstice. The tradition of giving light during the darkest time of year directly connects to your modern Christmas candles, string lights, and illuminated decorations. You're giving the same gift Romans gave, hope that light will return. Now, here's where it gets absolutely wild. While Saturnalia ended on December 23rd, December 25th hosted another crucial festival, Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Emperor Aurelian established this festival in 274 CE, creating an official state religion around Sol Invictus. The date wasn't arbitrary, it marked the winter solstice on the old Julian calendar, celebrating the exact moment when daylight begins increasing again. The sun was reborn, darkness had been conquered. When Christianity became Rome's official religion in the 4th century, church leaders faced a massive problem. How do you Christianize a population utterly obsessed with these winter festivals? Romans loved Saturnalia. They loved Sol Invictus. They weren't giving them up. The church's solution was brilliant. Don't fight the traditions, absorb them. In 336 CE, Pope Julius I officially declared December 25th as Christ's birthday. There's zero biblical evidence Jesus was born in December. The Gospel of Luke mentions shepherds watching flocks by night, which suggests spring lambing season, not winter. But historical accuracy wasn't the point. Strategic cultural absorption was. The symbolism worked perfectly. Christ became the new light of the world, born during the darkest time of year to bring spiritual illumination. The sun's physical rebirth merged seamlessly with humanity's spiritual rebirth through Christ. Same symbolism, new theology. Nearly every Christmas tradition you practice traces directly back to Saturnalia. Gift-giving, directly from sigillaria exchanges, including the social obligation aspect. Feasting, the Saturnalia banquets where social classes mixed freely. Decorating with evergreens, Roman wreaths and boughs symbolizing eternal life. Social gatherings, the communal celebration aspect that defined the festival. Temporary social equality, reflected in Christmas charity and goodwill toward all. Candles and lights, symbolizing the returning light after solstice darkness. Even the phrase Christmas spirit, that sense of goodwill, generosity, and social harmony, directly echoes Saturnalia's temporary suspension of normal social hierarchies. For one brief period, Romans practiced radical equality and generosity, just as Christmas encourages charity and kindness toward all. You're not celebrating Christmas. You're celebrating Saturnalia with a theological overlay applied 1,700 years ago. Santa Claus is a lie, but the bearded gift-giving sky rider he's based on. That guy was terrifyingly real, at least to the Vikings who left food out for his 8-legged horse every December. Welcome to YULE, a 12-day winter survival ritual that would eventually become everything you recognize as Christmas. And yes, that's where the 12 days of Christmas comes from. But this wasn't a cheerful carol. This was a desperate attempt to survive the harshest season in one of Europe's most unforgiving climates. The centerpiece of YULE was the Yule log, and we're not talking about a decorative piece of wood. This was a massive tree trunk, carefully selected, dragged indoors with ceremony, and lit using a piece saved from the previous year's log. The fire would burn continuously for all 12 days, creating an unbroken chain of flame across generations. This wasn't symbolic tradition, it was survival technology. The continuously burning log provided heat, light for work, a cooking source, and most importantly, a psychological anchor during the darkest, coldest time of year when the sun barely rose above the horizon. Letting the fire go out was considered catastrophically bad luck, and practically speaking, it could mean death. Rekindling fire in 20°C temperatures with primitive tools while your home lost all accumulated heat wasn't just inconvenient, it was potentially fatal. Norse families decorated their homes with evergreen boughs, holly, ivy, and mistletoe, believing these plants held magical properties because they committed the impossible. They defied winter's death. Everything else died or went dormant. Evergreens stayed green, stayed alive, stayed defiant. The tradition of hanging mistletoe and kissing beneath it. Pure Norse Yule tradition, associated with Frigga, goddess of love and marriage, that awkward office party moment. 1,000 years old. Now here's where Santa Claus enters the story, and it's far more fascinating and significantly darker than the mall version suggests. During Yule, the Norse believed Odin led the wild hunt, a ghostly procession of the dead riding through winter storms. Odin, the All-Father, was a wanderer who wore a long cloak and had a magnificent white beard. He rode an 8-legged horse named Sleipnir that could fly through the sky faster than any normal steed. Children would leave their boots filled with carrots, straw, or sugar near the chimney for Sleipnir. In return, Odin would leave gifts or treats in the boots. But this wasn't cute, it was transactional. You fed the god's horse, the god rewarded you. You forgot? Well, Odin had a darker reputation too. Let's break down the parallels. An elderly bearded figure in winter clothing, riding through the sky during December, visiting homes at night, rewarding children who left offerings, entering through chimneys, and keeping lists of behavior. You're not celebrating a Christian saint, you're celebrating a Norse god with a theological makeover. The Norse also believed in the Yule goat, a creature that would visit homes to ensure Yule preparations were proper. In Scandinavia today, straw goat decorations remain common Christmas ornaments. Your grandmother's weird straw goat ornament? Ancient Norse home inspection system. Yule feasts were legendary and brutally practical. The Norse would slaughter livestock they couldn't feed through winter, preserving some meat through smoking and salt, but feasting on fresh meat during Yule while it was available. The boar was sacred to Freyr, god of fertility and prosperity. Boar's head became the traditional Yule centerpiece, not just food, but a religious offering consumed communally. Your Christmas ham? You're eating Freyr's sacred animal. They brewed special Yule ale, and drinking toasts to the gods wasn't optional. It was mandatory religious practice. The first toast went to Odin for victory and power. The second to Njord and Freyr for good harvests and peace. The third to the king. Then came toasts to deceased relatives, maintaining connections with ancestors across the boundary of death. These weren't fun social customs, they were religious obligations. Failing to properly celebrate Yule could bring disaster to your household, your crops, your community. The gods were watching, the ancestors were watching. You performed the rituals correctly, or you suffered the consequences. When Christianity arrived in Scandinavia, relatively late, around 1000 CE, the church faced their familiar challenge. How do you convert people who are absolutely obsessed with Yule traditions? Their solution was brilliantly simple: just merge them. King Haakon I of Norway literally passed a law, moving Yule to coincide with Christmas, declaring they should be celebrated simultaneously. Not similar, not inspired by, the same festival. The 12 days of Yule became the 12 days of Christmas. The Yule log became a Christmas log. The Yule feast became Christmas dinner. The Yule ale became Christmas wassail. Same traditions, new theological justification. Odin's transformation into Santa Claus took centuries and crossed multiple cultures. Watch the evolution. Odin, Norse, pre-1000 CE, bearded wanderer, winter sky rider on 8-legged horse, gift giver who rewards offerings. Saint Nicholas, 4th century, Christian, bishop known for secret gift-giving to the poor, merged with Odin's gift-giving tradition. Sinterklaas, Dutch, 16th century, merged Saint Nicholas with Odin-like characteristics, riding through sky, judging behavior, bringing gifts. Father Christmas, British, 17th century, personification of Christmas cheer and feasting, absorbed Yule traditions. Santa Claus, American, 1823, the modern synthesis, finalized by Clement Clarke Moore's poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas. Moore's poem gave us the sleigh pulled by reindeer, replacing Odin's eight-legged horse with a trained deer. The chimney entrance directly from the Yule log tradition of the chimney being the home's sacred center. And the workshop at the North Pole, echoing the frozen Norse homeland where Odin's Hall of Valhalla resided. The Norse gave us nearly everything that makes Christmas feel like Christmas. The 12 days of Christmas, directly from Yule's 12-day celebration from solstice to New Year. The Yule log, now a chocolate dessert, but originally the festival's literal and spiritual centerpiece. Evergreen decorations, holly, ivy, and mistletoe traditions, representing life-defying death. Santa Claus, evolved directly from Odin's Yule visits, with Christian Saint Nicholas layered on top. Christmas ham, from the sacred Yule boar, Freyr's animal, consumed as religious communion. Caroling, from Yule songs and mandatory toasts to gods and ancestors. The Christmas tree, though this deserves its own explanation. The Christmas tree itself is fascinatingly complex. It's often attributed to Martin Luther in 16th century Germany, who supposedly decorated a tree with candles. But the practice of bringing evergreen trees indoors and decorating them has much older roots in Norse and Germanic Yule traditions. The tree represents Yggdrasil, the world tree connecting all 9 realms of Norse cosmology. Bringing a tree indoors during Yule symbolically brought the cosmic order into your home, connecting your family to the gods, to the ancestors, to the entire structure of existence. Your Christmas tree isn't Christian. It's a miniature representation of the Norse cosmic order, decorated with lights representing stars, topped with a symbol representing the divine, connecting your living room to the structure of the universe itself. Every Christmas tradition you practice is pagan, every single one. But here's the twist, that's exactly what made Christianity unstoppable. When Christianity spread through Europe between the 4th and 11th centuries, church leaders faced an impossible problem. How do you convert populations whose winter celebrations are woven into their cultural identity, their agricultural calendar, and their psychological survival? In 601 CE, Pope Gregory I wrote a letter that would reshape Western civilization. He instructed missionaries, don't destroy pagan temples, convert them into churches, don't eliminate pagan festivals, overlay Christian meaning onto them. This wasn't deception. This was the most brilliant cultural translation in human history. The church recognized something profound. These winter solstice traditions served deep human needs that transcended theology. The need for light in darkness, community in isolation, hope in despair, celebration during hardship. These weren't pagan needs or Christian needs, they were human needs. By placing Christ's birth on December 25th, the date of Sol Invictus and near the winter solstice, the Church created a theological bridge that changed everything. Christ became the light of the world born during the darkest time, fulfilling the exact same symbolic role as the reborn Son. Same function, new theology. Watch the baptism of traditions. Saturnalia gift-giving, gifts commemorating the Magi's presents to baby Jesus. Yule feast, Christmas dinner celebrating Christ's birth. Evergreens symbolizing eternal life through Christ's resurrection. Yule logs continuous fire, the eternal light of Christian salvation. Odin's gift-giving visits, Saint Nicholas rewarding Christian virtue. Same actions, new meaning, perfect cultural continuity. This absorption happened differently across Europe, which explains why your Christmas looks different from your cousins in Germany. Britain, heavy Stonehenge or Celtic influence, emphasis on communal feasting and wassailing traditions. Germany, strong Norse influence, Christmas trees, Krampus, Santa Claus precursors. Italy or Spain, Roman Saturnalia influence, extended celebrations, elaborate nativity scenes, gift-giving on January 6th. Scandinavia, almost pure Yule traditions with the thinnest possible Christian overlay. Here's what makes this synthesis absolutely brilliant. It preserved the psychological and social functions of winter solstice celebrations while adding new theological meaning. People still gathered their communities, still feasted when food was scarce, still brought light into darkness, still exchanged gifts, still decorated with evergreens, still burned logs, still sang songs. But now these actions also celebrated Christ's birth. The Church didn't erase winter solstice traditions, it baptized them, and in doing so, it created a holiday so culturally powerful that even in our increasingly secular age, Christmas remains the most widely celebrated holiday in the Western world. This wasn't cultural theft, this was cultural evolution. The The traditions that survived were those that served genuine human needs, whether framed in pagan or Christian terms. You're not celebrating Christianity's victory over paganism. You're celebrating their merger. So the next time you celebrate Christmas, understand this. You're not participating in a 2,000-year-old tradition. You're participating in a 5,000-year-old human ritual that has survived empires, religions, and civilizations. When you decorate a Christmas tree, you're continuing a tradition that stretches back to Norse YULE and beyond, bringing evergreen life indoors to defy winter's death, recreating the world tree that connects Earth to the divine. When you exchange gifts on December 25th, you're echoing Roman Saturnalia's Sigillaria and Odin's YULE rewards, a tradition of reciprocal obligation and generosity that predates Christianity by centuries. When you gather family for Christmas dinner, you're recreating the communal feasts at Stonehenge's Durrington walls, where people traveled from across Britain 5,000 years ago to celebrate the solstice together, feasting on pork from pigs raised specifically for this moment. When you light Christmas candles or string lights on your house, you're participating in humanity's ancient defiance of winter darkness, the same impulse that made Newgrange's builders create that shaft of solstice light 5,000 years ago. When you tell children about Santa Claus riding through the winter sky, you're retelling stories of Odin's wild hunt that Norse parents shared around Yule fires 1,000 years ago. Same bearded sky rider, same gift giving, same winter magic. This isn't about undermining Christmas's religious significance, it's about understanding its profound cultural depth that makes it so powerful. These traditions survived not because the church forced them on people, but because they fulfill deep human needs that transcend any single religion. The need for light in darkness, the need for community in isolation, the need for hope when nature seems dead, the need for celebration and generosity when times are hardest. Whether you're Christian, pagan, agnostic, or atheist, when you celebrate Christmas, you're connecting with your ancient ancestors who faced the winter solstice with the same fears, hopes, and determination to survive and celebrate that you carry in your DNA today. The winter solstice isn't just an astronomical event, it's humanity's oldest continuous celebration. And Christmas? It's the latest, most successful incarnation of a 5,000-year-old human tradition. That's not just worth celebrating, that's immortal. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're releasing one deep dive every week into history that refuses to die. Drop a comment, which tradition shocked you most? And share this with someone who loves Christmas. I guarantee they'll never look at their tree the same way again. Until next time, stay curious about the past that lives in your present, because history is immortal.